How do you reconcile what you want when you're in a family? When there is sacrifice and compromise?
So like work could be very important for me, but it needs to be this kind of work. And I need to feel this way when I'm doing the work. I need to feel like impassioned. I need to feel alive.
That doesn't mean there's something wrong. So that needs to be tolerated. You have to find a way to reconcile your own guilt and not have your wife or your kids make your guilt feel better. Welcome back, V.
Welcome back, Ritz.
It's been a while.
It has, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Life has been lifing.
It's nice to be back.
It is.
And we've had a lot on. You've had a birthday.
Yeah.
I've been on holiday.
Yeah.
You've been on holiday. The UK is now finally in
summer.
Well,
let's see how long it lasts.
Yeah. I think it's back down to 19 next week. Chillier times in July. We're in July if you're
crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, we're back.
And
we've got another dilemma, which I'm going to read out.
Let's go.
Are you ready?
Let's go.
All right, okay. So this comes in from a 39-year-old male, and he reads, Hi. I'm in a really good job, but my role requires long hours and frequent travel, which has severely strained my relationship with my wife and our two young children, ages 6 and 9. I often miss family dinners, school events, and weekend outings. It does make me feel guilty and regretful. My wife says she's a single parent, and our children frequently ask why I'm not home more often. I know I need a better work-life balance, but I'm unsure how to achieve it without jeopardising my career advancement and financial stability that I provide for my family. I fear that requesting more flexible hours or turning down travel assignments could be perceived as a lack of commitment, potentially leading to missed promotions or job loss. I've considered speaking to a therapist for guidance on managing stress at work, but the fear of being judged or appearing weak has held me back. I'm not sure what to do next. What are your thoughts, Ritz?
That I've seen this pattern like so many times.
Me too.
Yeah. So I guess I want to start with that. You're not alone.
Yeah.
Because this is a presentation that I have seen for at least like 15 years.
I was going to say like from the beginning.
From the beginning.
Right?
Yeah. And I'm sure when we were training, our supervisors would have used examples of the things that you have been saying when we were like learning about how we might work with somebody who's dealing with workplace stress. But it's not just that, is it? It's workplace stress alongside life.
Yeah.
And that life is moving on, right? You've got kids, you've got a wife, you've got this family. They're moving on. They're getting older, but they're noticing. They're noticing the lack of you there.
Yeah.
You're noticing the lack of you there. You want something to change. You don't know how to change. And I think that's what adds to the stress.
Yeah.
I think that's what adds to the workplace stress.
Yeah. Maybe that is the workplace stress. Because he's not really spoken so much about the stress. He says he wants help when managing stress at work, but I'm hearing more so about the stress of the lack of work-life balance and the impact it's having on his relationships with his family. So yeah, maybe that is the more pertinent stress he's facing.
Yeah.
And it's so hard, isn't it? It's so hard to be pulled in different directions and to feel like you have so many places where you're needed.
So many hats to wear.
So many hats to wear, and also not knowing, well, what is it that I want as well?
Yeah. And also, how do you reconcile what you want when you're in a family? When there is sacrifice and compromise, when you're in that system.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I feel that sometimes when people have come to my clinic room, they want the script for that. They want to know what's the right answer.
Yeah.
Like you must know what the right balance is. Can you tell me what does that look like? Then I can go and do it. But we don't have the answer, do we?
We don't. And it's like an internal job. You have to kind of look within and do some real like juggling, renegotiation to really know what that could look like for you.
And that doesn't need to be permanent. Like you can play around with it to a certain degree because there's obviously like other people's livelihoods happening at the same time. But it doesn't mean that just because you change one area, like that's it now, that's the script for the rest of your life. Like have a little bit of a play around with that to see like, okay, if I don't know, did pick up, let's say, twice a week. If I play with that, how does that start to look?
Yeah.
What impact does that have on my work life?
How does that feel?
Yeah.
Try it on for size.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the first thing I've done when I've worked with this kind of presentation in the clinic room before has been to go straight to values.
Yeah. The values worksheet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that is the compass really in the direction for your life. And from that, I've also looked at like personality assessments. I've kind of looked at what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and really use that to help me and to help the client gain an objective picture of, okay, this is who this person is and this is who this person wants to be. What's stopping them from getting them from A to B? Is it about the fear of being seen as weak? Is it about the fear of missing out and feeling like, oh, I may be passing up a promotion? Is it about the fear of not providing or not keeping up the lifestyle that you've set for your family? And then maybe challenging some of those judgments.
Should we talk a little bit about where values come from?
Yeah.
So, I mean, everyone kind of has values that they live by, don't they? And that can come from like your society, your religion, your families.
Morality.
Yeah. And there's a philosophy side to it, but there's also quite a specific therapeutic model in psychology, which is known as ACT, and that's acceptance and commitment therapy. And what that is standing for is we all have thoughts, we all have feelings. You can learn to accept your thoughts and feelings without judgment, and that really brings in that mindfulness component to ACT. And then the commitment part is once you've really figured out what your values are, and there's 9 domains that you can live your life by in relation to values, and we can go into those. But once you start to get a bit of a taste of, well, what are my values? How do you start to commit to yourself? Like in a mantra style, like how do I commit to start living my life in line with my values? What are the actions that I'm going to do that? Because when I talk to a client, because I'll often do it the same way, when I talk to a client about, what are their values? And so you look at 9 different domains from work, relationships, friendships, parenting, spirituality,
play,
recreation, health, community, I think is one of them. I'm trying to think of the last one.
Oh, is it personal development?
Yeah, personal development, that's it, yeah. And when you kind of ask somebody to start looking at their domains, or before they look at their domains, they'll often say like, what's important to me is my family or my relationships or my physical health or my, being a parent. But then when you actually start to see, well, how much are you doing, if you're rating that as important, how much are you living your life in line with that? And so often work becomes the priority.
Yeah.
Like they actually say like, I might rank work at like 5 or 4. Often that's what I see.
Yeah.
But actually work is taking up all my action.
Because their actions show.
Yeah. They're not living in line with their values. So it can be a really good way to almost like get clarity. Like what you were talking about, weren't you? Going in, getting that clarity of what do I want my life to look like and stand for in this moment?
Yeah, because it can be different for every person. So even though you and I may share, ranking work at like 6 out of like 9 or 10 in terms of importance, but the way in which we express that value could be very different. So like work could be very important for me, but it needs to be this kind of work, and I need to feel this way when I'm doing the work. I need to feel like impassioned, I need to feel alive, I need to feel creative. Whereas maybe for you, it could be, oh, but I want to have structure, I want to have order, I want to feel like I'm on top of things, so really fleshing out what this value could look like for you, how you want it to feel, how you want to, like if you could imagine in your mind's eye expressing this value and someone looking in your life and saying, yeah, I see how you demonstrate that. What would that look like?
I think visualization could be a really powerful way to get in touch with that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. I've done quite a few guided meditations with people, and I've asked them to think about maybe like their perfect day going into work, or if it's like your perfect day spent, just generally, what is your perfect day?
Do you want to do one now? I want to do it. Like be on the receiving end of it. Yeah. Do you guys want to try it?
Okay.
I feel like they don't have a choice.
It could take like 20 minutes though to really get into the zone. Yeah.
It's like should we do a Dr. V special?
Maybe we should.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do that after this.
Yeah.
Because it is like a 20-minute visualization exercise.
Yeah. I think that would be amazing.
Yeah? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah. But see, that just shows you, doesn't it? Like sometimes you can have a plan for something, like that you think it's going to go a certain way, and then once you start to flesh it out, something different can come of it.
Yeah.
Which you didn't even realise can give you like a new direction, a new purpose, a new fulfillment. I'm just thinking of this podcast, for example, of I never thought that could be an avenue.
No.
Like something like this. I know I put you on the spot to do it.
I know. I was like giving you a bit of a side eye there. Yeah. And I think this is really important for you to, I know you've presented this as a dilemma because you're thinking, gosh, what do I do? I've got all these different things that are competing for my time. How do I navigate this? But I really do think this is something that you need to sit in within and go within and figure this out, because ultimately you want to feel like you're living authentically for you first, and then the overflow of that spills out into your family, into your work. Because if you approach this with, okay, give me some answers and tell me how I can just stuff the stress down at work, how I can maybe build up the courage just to ask for some time off, or how I can renegotiate my work so that I can be present for my family, but without really knowing, okay, what is this? What's the significance of this to me? You could just end up feeling more overwhelmed, more burdened, and actually more lost a couple of months, years down the line, when you realize, okay, I'm still giving, but I'm unsure of whether I'm really feeling fulfilled or whether I'm really in charge of my, if I'm really steering the ship in the right direction here.
Absolutely, because, you kind of like raised something there that got me thinking, and that's, are you noticing because the family notice?
Yeah.
Your absence?
Yeah.
Were you feeling it before?
Yeah.
And hoping nobody would notice?
Yeah. Because there's a difference, right? There's a difference in I'm not really present for my family, or I'm less available for them, but I'm actually really enjoying this work.
And I'm okay with that.
And I'm okay with it. Versus actually I want to be there.
Yeah.
Like I'm missing out on something from not being present with my family.
Yeah.
And therefore that's why it's so important for me.
Yeah.
Not to say that either of those are more important or less important, but it's just good to know, where's your head at? Like what's really steering this?
And the guilt that will come from both of those.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't mean there's something wrong. So that needs to be tolerated. You have to find a way to reconcile your own guilt and not have your wife or your kids make your guilt feel better.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is, if you actually go down the path of, yes, I am missing out on things, but really, I love the travel and I love my work. And they're still like, oh, we really wish you were there at sports day or, you know, at the nativity play, whatever it is. And then you feel guilty for that then the outcome of that isn't to then be like, oh, I wish they wouldn't say those things to me. Like they're allowed to express those feelings and you're allowed to feel guilty. That doesn't mean you're doing the wrong thing, but then you have to find a way of tolerating that guilt, to kind of have that self-talk with yourself to say, yeah, you know, of course they'd miss me being there. And I miss it too, probably. But I think maybe I'd be missing work a bit more. And what I get from that.
And then if that's the case, then there's some work to do around what that compromise could look like for you and your family. But you'd be coming at it from a place of certainty, knowing that actually this is what I want. So let me find a way to, how can we work together?
It's the collaboration then.
Yeah,
that's where it becomes the family system.
Yes. I know we say this all the time. I really think you should see a therapist.
Well, I wanted to touch on that next.
Okay, go
the
for
idea
it.
of being a weak man, like a weak man.
Yeah.
And who are you weak in front of? The therapist, or what? Or is it that work would know you're going to therapy? Like what's that about?
Yeah. What does weakness mean to you, and who introduced you to weakness?
Like gender roles is really coming up for me here.
Yeah.
Is there something about you being this strong provider? The steerer of the ship?
Yeah.
Has anyone asked you to do that? Have you just stepped into that role? Is that what you saw? Is that what's normal to you?
But he's also saying, let me just pull it up again, but he's also saying that he feels he's afraid of even asking for, well, yeah, he's considered speaking to a therapist for guidance on managing stress at work, but the fear of being judged. So maybe you're even thinking that the therapist is going to judge you.
That's what I was saying. Who's judging him?
Yeah.
Work are judging him for seeing a therapist, or the therapist is judging him?
Yeah. I'm sure we all know by now, like the rhetoric or the phrase that there's so much strength in vulnerability, but it does take so much courage to be vulnerable. So much courage.
And I think this is a bit of an interesting dilemma in itself, because some people find it easier to be vulnerable with a stranger, and some people find it easier to be vulnerable with people they trust. So I'm wondering, do you know which one it is for you? And could you try that out first?
Yeah.
Now, here's a bit of a way that you could do it. If you prefer being more vulnerable, or if you think it would be easier to be more vulnerable with a stranger, the next time you go get a coffee, and you know, often you're waiting and the barista might ask you like, how are you doing? Or how's your day? Like when the next time a stranger asks you that, I wonder if you could be real with your answer and see how that feels. And if it's the opposite, actually, I think I could be more vulnerable with somebody I trust. Could you try talking to your wife then?
Yeah.
Have you got a really good friend you can confide in?
Yeah.
A sibling? A family member? And you don't have to tell them everything, but could you start with like 5% of what's going on?
Yeah, dip your toe in.
Yeah.
Dip your toe into being vulnerable and see, like you say, how that feels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Challenge those assumptions that you need to have it all figured out. And I also think that is another kind of like myth of therapy, that sometimes people think they need to have the answer to go to therapy.
Really?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of that going on there.
That they need to know the answer for themselves before they go.
Yeah, or they have to have themselves figured out a bit.
Oh, okay. Well, no, that's kind of like the purpose of therapy.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
But I think that exists. Because it falls into that same belief system of, I have it all figured out, I know what's going on, I don't have blind spots.
Yeah.
I'm getting a sense of you that you like things neat. I might be totally wrong. I just get that sense.
Yeah, maybe. I also think that there could be an element of shame here as well. Not just, because I'm just thinking back to him feeling, my wife says that she's a single parent right now, and my kids are constantly asking me why I'm not at home. That speaks to me of an interesting dynamic that's going on there. Like, both your wife and your kids have located you as the one who is not following the order here. And I'd be very interested about how you communicate with your family about your absence and their understanding of it. Yeah. So I do think that you probably could do with some help from a therapist to explore all these different avenues and unpack all of this.
Yeah.
Because it's quite multifaceted, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I want to come back to what you said originally, which is you're not alone. You're not alone with this, because this is such a typical presentation that we see day in, day out. But you have the potential to actually shift into something that could be more liberating and feel more real and authentic. So the opportunity here is a great one.
Yeah, you have a real chance to recognize like you have a choice.
Yeah.
And your choices might not make everybody happy.
I was going to say, it may not be actually quite, you'd have to, that's where the act comes into it, the tolerating the uncomfortable feelings and being present in the moment and accepting that this is the reality of the situation. And it may not be great for everyone.
But how do you work through that as a family then?
Yeah.
As a family.
Yeah. I hope that's been helpful for you.
I think by opening up and talking, like, well done on just bringing it here. If this is the first place, like, you have brought it up. But I think just talking about it and sharing your vulnerability with it, you're probably going to find so many people that relate. Or, that are just going to give you that genuine empathy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to have it all figured out.
No, you really don't.
Yeah.
And you're not weak.
No.
For asking for some guidance.
Okay.
All right.
We'll see you in part 2.
Bye, guys.
See ya.